Thank you for joining us on the True Project today. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I am Julian Gavino. I am a model, a life coach, a writer. I kind of do a whole lot of stuff, but most of the work that I do has to do with being disabled and being trans and the intersectionality of that and my life experiences. So that's mostly what I talk about on my Instagram, where most of my work is.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. We really appreciate
Absolutely.
it. Speaking of your Instagram, I would like to start with something you posted on Instagram recently. You said, and I quote, "The reality is that I struggle to come up with something innate to be proud of. I struggle to say those words. I am proud to be disabled. I do not feel like I am allowed to be yet. There are forms of it, excuse me, um, I do not yet feel like that space has been created. There are forms of it, sure. Nonetheless, those forms are still budding. They are simply seeds. These spaces are still rooted in ableism and sometimes poisons the well of my own community. They do not yet belong to us. We need something that is only ours. I don't know what that looks like. I am reminded of this daily. Why do you feel like you're not allowed to be proud of being disabled yet?
Yeah, that's a big question. Well, I feel like there's a lot of ways I could go with it, but for the sake of not getting too off track or, going down a rabbit hole, um, you know, I think it's because we don't have enough allyship yet or backing behind our community. Like, how you see LGBT pride is so big, right? I didn't hear about disability pride until last year, even though apparently it's been around since the 90s. But nobody knows. And like, I feel like most of our conversations surrounding disability stay within our community. Like, I don't feel that support. I don't feel that love. Like, people, I think they look at me and they say, wow, you're so brave. You're so strong. Like, and it's not that that's not true, maybe, but most of the time it's able-bodied people who say that to me, and I think it's because that's how they want to see me. So then I think when I go to say it, I struggle to say it because it reminds me that I don't think that able-bodied people want to see me at my worst, right? I don't think they want to see like the reality of things. They just want to see that I can overcome or I can be this strong person. Um, but they don't want to talk about how we don't really have a lot of basic rights that other people have. So I think I find it hard.
Do you think you ever get to that point where you will you be able to say that you are proud to be disabled? What will it take to get you to that point?
Um, in some senses, I am proud. Like, I guess, I'm proud of myself. I'm proud to be me, and I am disabled. So I guess in a sense, I am proud to be disabled, right? Like, nothing is black or white. Like, everything is gray. And I might wake up tomorrow and feel more proud than I do the next day. But I think, like, in a societal sense, like me jumping out and saying, like hopping on Instagram and saying, like, oh, I'm really proud to be disabled, kind of like I found out it was Disability Pride, and I was like, oh, let's make a post about it, and made kind of a cute post. And then I thought more about it, and I was like, that seems ingenuine. Like, I was like, how can I sit here and say, like, this stuff if, we can't get married, like most people can't get on disability, like we lose our insurance. I've had friends that have died before because, they couldn't receive medical treatment. Like when you start to really think about the reality, it's hard to be proud because nobody else is proud for you.
Do you think we're forced to be proud? Do you think disability pride is rooted in ableism? Do you think there's ableism behind disability pride? Is it something, is it just thinly veiled ableism? And even like internalized ableism, like, oh, we have to be proud to be being disabled. This is something that I have not thought about until you brought it up. Do you think, maybe we are just buying into this ableism that, hey, you should be proud? And then also, and I'm sorry, it's multiple questions. Um, do you think we should separate the pride of being disabled, take that and separate it from disability rights? Because no, I'm not proud of the laws that we have and what we don't get. I'm not happy. I'm not proud of that. However, I personally am proud to say I'm disabled. I think there's a lot of entanglement in that. What are your thoughts? And again, I'm sorry, that was kind of like a lot at one time.
No, I understood what you said, and that's exactly what my post was about like me struggling to disentangle all of that because it's so intertwined. And I think kind of what I said, like we don't have a lot of our own. It's so true is that like our narratives usually in the media are so skewed. So it's just hard to think about how behind we are, like versus other sorts of prides that are celebrated or that go on. I don't feel like society is there yet. Like I feel like they're still at the point where, yeah, they want me to be brave and they want me to be strong, but I don't know necessarily that they're comfortable yet with me saying like, I'm just me and I'm proud to be disabled. Because there's like that, at least in media and in movies, like whenever there's a disabled person, either they're not really disabled or we want to cure them. They're an overcomer. Like we have all of these, like in my post, I said tropes, right? Like that kind of like our characters play. So I think when I start to think about all that stuff, it does get very hard to separate it from like, what is mine? What is my community? What is not? Is there anything? Or like, is all of this just like constructed because we get hidden away so often?
I agree. I agree 100%. I think, um, and that is one of the things if we want to talk about disability pride, we as the disabled community need to take back our narrative because it is our narrative and no one else has the right to that narrative but us. And I think, like you said, that's something we struggle with every day is who is telling our story, who is dictating how people see us
Yeah.
as a community. And you're right, we're either victims or, oh, we're so inspiring, because we do something that someone who is not disabled does every day. Like just getting out of my vehicle. I've had people say, oh,
Yep.
look at you.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
me too. Like pumping gas, like in my wheelchair. I've had that happen. It's like, and then kind of in my post too, I wrote like, it's even when you say like, oh, like you're so adaptable, and it's like, yeah, but we're forced to do that because the world is not made for us. So it's kind of like ironic almost when an able-bodied person is like, wow, you're doing so good, and I'm like, yeah, but this is like not necessarily like them in specific, it's not their fault, but it's like, yeah, but this is everyone's fault that they don't do better for us, because obviously as a disabled community it's hard to organize in large groups like other minorities do, because we're maybe sick or maybe physically disabled, so we need allies. But for some reason we can't seem to get it on such a large scale like other movements do.
I think part of that is non-disabled people don't know how to be allies. They have in their mind what allies are.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily what we're looking for or what we need in terms of, allyship and somebody being our ally. They think, I don't know, by being like, hey, look what my friend did and they're disabled. They think that's being ally. And it's really not what we need. We need people to help amplify our voices, but without putting their own narrative
Yeah.
on what we're saying.
Yeah, no, it's true. Like, and I don't want to take away from the fact that, because I think some people misunderstood my post in saying, like, oh, but like, you know, disabled people are strong and they are brave. And, they are. Like, in my opinion, I think we're like the strongest people I know of. But it's like, we're never the ones getting to say that for our own specific reasons, is what I'm saying. Like, we're not the ones in control of how and why we're brave and strong and like what that means to us. It's always just you're such an overcomer, or like you were able to adapt. And it's like people don't understand how, I don't want to say easy, but like, before I was in a wheelchair, I would have thought obviously like that would be horrible, or like that would have been so difficult, and like, not to say it wasn't, but like you adapt, and like now it's just part of my life. Or like having a feeding tube is just part of my life, and to other people it's fascinating and crazy and amazing, and I'm like, no, it's just, you don't have a choice, like you just live. What are you going to do? Just lay down and do nothing? It's not an option. So I don't know, it's not this thing that people think it is. Like, we humans have this innate desire to survive against odds. It's in our DNA, and if you're faced with such odds, you're going to get through that.
I agree. And, for me, I've always been disabled, so I don't know any different. So this is my quote unquote normal. And, it's not a big deal driving my car or pumping gas or anything like that. And I think a non disabled person cannot wrap their mind around what it would be like for them if they were in my situation. And I think we need to normalize disability
Yeah.
and not, you know, it's not some alien concept or some sci-fi concept. It's reality.
It's
But
true. Like, I don't know how long you've been following me, but if I don't know if you noticed, but like I started talking about my health less and less. Like, I started to talk more about like the advocacy, or like the most recent post I made. And like the reason was because I was like, you know what, if I'm in the media and I'm a model and doing all this stuff, I need to just not really answer questions about it. Like I need to just act normal. Like if people are like, "Oh wow, you're like a model in a wheelchair with a feeding tube," I just want to be like, "Yeah." Like I don't want to make it about that or like answer all of those questions because it should just be normalized. People shouldn't be so in your business and so fascinated with this and that because you know it needs to just become a part of people that represent the world because we're like such a large minority group, but yet we're not we're not normalized yet. Like when I go out, not now obviously because the pandemic, but before when I went out in public, you know, with my chair and my dog, um, some people act like I'm like a circus show, right? Like they're taking pictures or asking questions, and it's like we should be past this. Like it's 2020. Like we should not be still on these conversations like don't talk to my service dog. Like these are such small things that to us are common knowledge, but to able-bodied people they're not common knowledge yet.
Yeah. For me, people assume because of my speech that I must have had a stroke. And people are like, oh, did you have an accident? Did you have a stroke? And I used to get annoyed by that question. And I'm like, I realized they asked me that question because to them, they cannot fathom someone who was born disabled, born with disability, being so intelligent and being so dependent. So I must have been smart before my disability. So they just assume it's like, you know, people who are disabled are very intelligent. Please don't assume that I did have a stroke or an accident because you can't wrap your mind around a smart, intelligent, independent, disabled person. There's something really wrong with that mindset.
Oh yeah.
And this in the past year, anytime I go out, like you said, before the pandemic, anytime I would go out, it'd be like, oh, did you have a stroke? Did you have an accident? I'm like, no, I have cerebral palsy. And they have no idea what that is.
No, probably not.
They don't know what that is.
uh,
And, they're like, oh, so can you walk? I'm like, a little bit, yeah, but
why does it matter? Why is walking
why
so important?
it's a whole other conversation
Yeah.
about why walking is the ultimate goal. I've said this on my Instagram of great accessibility, and I've gotten a lot of pushback for saying that I am annoyed with parents who think their children have to walk. Your child does not have to walk.
Yeah.
I understand that you want your child to be independent and to be able to get around and go places. I am an ambulatory wheelchair user. I'm in my chair 99% of the time. I drive. I'm very independent. I don't have to walk for that independence. And instead of giving your disabled child the message that they have to adapt to an inaccessible world, I feel like parents should be working with us as disabled adults to help make things more accessible and fight for accessibility so
Yeah.
that their children don't have to go through what we go through and
Yeah.
the obstacles we have to face and the barriers for physical access. You
Yeah.
know,
I get that because I'm an ambulatory wheelchair user. So, like, I can walk and stand. And there's people I come across all the time who just, they're mind blown by it. They don't understand. But if you can do it, why aren't you trying harder? You know, but why? And it's like, no, it's not good for me. Like, just because I could do it does not mean it's, you know, it's not extremely painful, extremely difficult. It wastes my time, wastes my energy, you know. And I used to be hyper focused on it, you know, way 5, 6 years ago, about I have to walk, and, you know, and now I'm just like, that's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous mindset. And going back to what you said about, you know, the issues you face with your speech, I can't relate directly to the speech aspect, but when I was in college, um, you know, and I was in my chair at the time, and I had Atlas, my service dog. There were many times I had to get up and make a speech, or present like a presentation or something like that. And I would always have my teachers or students come up to me after I made it, and, you know, they would be like, wow, good job. Like, you're so smart. You're so intelligent and articulate. Like, and they would always act surprised. And it took me a while to understand, like, why are they saying that to me and they don't say that to other people? And then I was like, oh, I was like, it's because they think like I'm not smart because I'm disabled. Like, I was like, it's because they think I, you know, also have like an intellectual disability, which, you know, is sometimes true, but it's not always true. So people should not assume so.